With a couple of Linux-based computers at home and a box full of gadgets and doodads, I'm not afraid to call myself a techie. In fact, I'm always looking forward to seeing how automakers incorporate innovative and new technology in their vehicles. Yet this 2025 Volvo EX90 has been one of the hardest cars I've ever had to review. Sure, it looks gorgeous and offers plenty of range and tons of interior space, but after a week of testing it, I still find myself incompatible with its in-car software. Don't just take my word for it. All of the ownership forums, Facebook groups, and subreddits all describe a variety of glitches and software issues with their cars, and even have a cheat sheet about how to reset the central computer if anything goes wrong. That isn't a good look for Volvo. But when everything is working well, this is one of the sweetest three-row EVs on the market today. The 2025 Volvo EX90 starts at around $115,000, and this model I have here today has an additional $5,600 in optional extras, which means any issue, anything less than perfection, is really noticeable for a car that costs that much. However, it just looks so pretty. I mean, just take a look at these Thor's hammer headlights, and I love these 22-inch wheels. The whole thing looks like an evolution of the gas-powered XC90. In fact, the only way you can really tell that this is the EX90 and not that one is with that little hump up there, which houses a LiDAR sensor. Supposedly, that's going to help enable a hands-free driving technology, but the automaker has yet to flip the switch on that. In fact, I'd be surprised if they offer that technology without an additional subscription or extra cost. The EX90 also houses a 111 kilowatt-hour battery, which enables a driving range of up to around 500 kilometers. There's also a peak charging rate of 250 kilowatts, which should allow, when everything's going right, a recharge rate from 10 to 80% in as little as 30 minutes. In addition to all of that good stuff, this car is just super spacious. When you pop the trunk, you're gonna see there's around 324 liters of cargo room behind the third row, which expands to just over 1,000 liters when you fold down that third row. Fold the second row down and you've got about 2,100 liters of cargo room. But in addition to all of that, this car is just gorgeous inside. Let's take a closer look. The car's elegance extends to the interior. Sure, it might be a little bit of a minimalist design, but it just looks so good. And all of the materials here are made with morals. This is Nordico, a leather-free alternative, which is made with recycled bottles and PVC. It looks great and feels good. And I also love the wood inlays and these accents. The car just looks so good. And in addition to that, it feels pretty spacious as well, so long as you're not in that third row, as I mentioned earlier. In addition to being spacious, it's also pretty well equipped. We've got heated seats in the front and rear. I've got a heated steering wheel, a head-up display, a nice little gauge cluster. I've got wireless phone charging. I've got this beautiful Bowers & Wilkins sound system, which sounds really good. And there's even massage seats as well. All of that sounds really good, but the car kind of falls apart when you start to interact with this 14.5-inch infotainment system, where all of the controls are. There's just a lot of really weird and quirky design decisions that are hard to wrap your head around. For example, those massage seats. They're labeled A, B, C, D, and the actual program name is written in gray on black, which is kind of hard to read, especially while you're driving. And the car has facial recognition, so it can tell when you're not paying attention to the road, and when you're trying to figure out which massage function you're trying to use, well, it'll start complaining about it. That's not the only thing. I mean, you have to adjust the lights through this infotainment system. You have to open the trunk by pressing and holding a button in the middle of the screen. There's a key fob with no buttons on it that needs to be recharged in the wireless charging pad. There's all sorts of things here that just don't make sense, and I just don't know why they've chosen to make all of these strange decisions. However, even with all of this confusing infotainment design, the car comes alive once you start driving. I actually really love the way this car drives. So let's hit the road and I can show you what I mean. Powering the 2025 Volvo EX90 are a pair of electric motors that deliver 510 horsepower and 671 pound-feet of torque. That's a lot of power, and it helps this big SUV go from 0 to 100 in under 5 seconds, which is incredible, given the size of this thing. I mean, it weighs about 6,000 pounds. Those two motors are a little bit different, so it's not exactly a twin powertrain system as described on the badge. The rear motor is a little bit more powerful, and both motors work together at launch conditions or when you're hustling around some corners and torque vectoring is required. Otherwise, the car turns off the rear motor and the car kind of operates like a front-wheel drive vehicle, which helps it feel and achieve some pretty good range. Now, with around 500 kilometers of range, this isn't the most long-range EVs you can get, but the car feels really solid on the road, thanks to its one-pedal driving system, which is modifiable in a couple of ways. It's not the best one-pedal system, but after some practice, the car feels pretty natural. But the most important thing about this Volvo EX90 is just how smooth the ride is. It's got a dual chamber air spring setup and air suspension, which helps it just glide on the road. I mean, Mercedes would love this kind of ride. I think it's one of the best riding EVs I've ever been in to date. Most of them tend to kind of crash around and feel really heavy on bumps and imperfect roads, but this just makes everything feel super smooth. It's also a shame that there is no hands-free driving system, especially given how active the vehicle's facial detection system is and anti-distraction system is. It's constantly telling you to pay attention to the road ahead when you've got the adaptive cruise control system. However, you can't really adjust the gap when that adaptive cruise control system is active, which is a little bit weird. I still have to talk about how distracting this infotainment system is. I mean, just performing any of the functions makes the car kind of angry and reminds you to pay attention to the road ahead. It's kind of condescending about it. It says, "You seem kind of distracted." Yeah, I'm trying to deal with this gizmo here. I'm trying to set up my massage function. I'm trying to see what the nearest charger is. All of these things kind of add up and make the driving experience kind of frustrating. And in addition to that, there's a couple of things that just don't make me feel like this is a $115,000 car. Like this 9-inch display in front of the steering wheel, it's kind of basic looking, and there's just a couple of screens to flip through which don't provide a ton of information. In addition to that, there's a head-up display, which is color, but doesn't show off a lot of useful information. It just shows me the speed and the speed limit. I'd like a little bit more information, maybe range or the energy coach or something like that. One very cool feature of the EX90 is its parking system. There are so many sensors and cameras that make this car so easy to park in even tight spaces. One of the cool features it has is an estimation about how close you're getting to another car or a pillar or something like that. In fact, I think it's time to test that system out. So let me just get my Driving.ca branded tape measure and, oh yeah, we don't really have a Driving.ca branded tape measure. It's just a normal tape measure, which will do. Let's see if that display on the screen is as accurate as it says it is. Unfortunately, this big infotainment system feels like a little bit of a gimmick, and you don't really want a lot of gimmicks that feel kind of useless in a $115,000 electric vehicle. One thing that has stood out to me though is this Bowers & Wilkins sound system. It sounds so good. It has Dolby Atmos support and just makes everything sound so rich and alive. And one final thing I should mention is that parents are probably going to love the Volvo EX90 because every single XC90, which this vehicle is based on, has achieved really strong scores at the IIHS. So it's very likely that this will be a top safety pick winner. In addition to that, there's even an integrated booster seat on these 7-seat models. Another weird thing that this car does is shift some of the shortcuts down here at the bottom of the screen based on how fast or slow you're driving. At speeds below 20 kilometers an hour, it shows you a shortcut for the parking cameras. At speeds above that, it changes to a performance mode. However, at slow speeds, like say when you're driving in a city when you might go above and below 20 kilometers an hour pretty frequently, those buttons just start moving around, which is really weird and pretty distracting in itself. There are tons of other three-row EVs available on the market in both the mainstream and premium space. I'd recommend shoppers also take a look at the Kia EV9, Hyundai Ioniq 9, VW ID Buzz, Rivian R1S, and the Cadillac Viztik. Now, the 2025 Volvo EX90 looks great inside and out and offers one of the best EV driving experiences I've had, period. However, its approach to in-car technology makes me struggle to recommend it. For early adopters and people who want to witness a vehicle evolve over time, this is the car for you. For everyone else, I'd recommend you take a look at the other options as well. For Driving.ca, I'm Sami Hajisad.